The story of New Jersey begins in 1618 when the Dutch began to settle the east side of the Hudson River. The first settlement in the east came into existence in 1623 at Fort Nassau when it was established on the Delaware River. Though the Dutch, through Henry Hudson, had been exploring the area as early as 1609, no European settlement was made until 1618. Henry Hudson, in his 1609 exploration, had originally named New Jersey Albania. In 1616, when Peter Minuit was appointed as director of the West Indian Company, and yes, this is the same Peter that I spoke about in an earlier video about the settlement of New York, he established a colony on the southern tip of Manhattan. The Dutch's interest in the New World was primarily focused on the fur trade, where they were conducting it with the Indians along the Hudson River. The Dutch were so focused on their fur trade that they wanted to expand their trade by providing land grants to those who came to settle it. But this did not attract as many as they wanted to, because not many wanted to leave their home in the Netherlands. It did attract some, and they continued to settle on the east side of the Hudson River, particularly north of New Amsterdam, or what would be modern-day New York City, and on Staten Island. In 1644, the Dutch granted some Englishmen the right to establish Hempstead and Long Island in return for bringing 100 families there within 5 years. However, for all the Dutch tried to do on the east side, they were largely unsuccessful on the west side of the Hudson. A few ragtag plantations were planted on the west side at Pavonia, Hoboken, Bayonne, and Hackensack. However, by 1643, the relations between the Dutch and the Raritan Indians had broken down, that the Dutch on the east side of the Hudson had accused the Indians of crimes, that they sent 80 men across the river where they murdered men, women, and children in their sleep. Of course, this led to the Indians retaliating against the Dutch by burning smaller Dutch settlements. And of course, the small Dutch settlements on the west side were ripe for picking, and they were razed. This led to a war between the Dutch and the Indians known as Kief's War, and peace would not last long and would eventually give way to the Peachtree War from 1655 to 1660. An incident with a Dutch farmer who was tired of Indians stealing the fruit off of his fruit trees led him to shoot and kill an Indian girl that was picking fruit off of his trees. In return, the Indians retaliated by completely burning all of the Dutch settlements to the ground on the west side of the river. Over 100 Europeans were killed, and 150 were left homeless, with another 300 captured and only 28 being released. In 1660, after the war, the Dutch planted one small settlement by the name of Bergen, which is the site for modern-day Jersey City. In 1664, the English came and took the land from the Dutch. Of course, the Dutch protested the newfound English control, but ultimately they were powerless to stop the growing might of the British Navy. King Charles had given all of New Jersey and all of New York to his brother, the Duke of York, or James, and in turn, James gave joint land rights to two men, George Carteret and Lord John Berkeley. Both had been distinguished participants in the English Civil War that was led by Oliver Cromwell, who had dethroned and beheaded King Charles I. Both had fought on the side of the late king, and Carteret had even held the Isle of Jersey until 1651, which was 3 years after the conclusion of the Civil War, which ended in Oliver's favor. Due to their loyalty, when Charles I's son, King Charles II, had ascended to the throne in 1660, they were granted joint land rights in 1664 in what is today modern-day New Jersey. Originally, it was called New Caesarea, which is another name for Jersey in honor of Carteret's devotion to the crown. Due to the joint land rights granted to both men in New Jersey ended up split into parts of as East New Jersey and West New Jersey. The west part was granted to Berkeley, and the east part was granted to George Carteret. Carteret had begun to authorize new settlements in East New Jersey, and when Carteret sent his cousin Philip Carteret to go to the east and govern it, well, because of that little move, there was a lot of contention between him and the self-proclaimed governor of East New Jersey, Nichols. You see, Richard Nichols, who was sent by the king to go and take New Netherland, and was successful in doing so in September of 1664, well, there are a lot of settlers from Nichols who were allowed to settle in the newly taken New York, and were also allowed to settle in East New Jersey as well. Of course, this created a lot of tension between Philip Carteret, the newly appointed governor of East New Jersey, and Richard Nicolls. The contention between the colonies lasted for decades. There is an attempt by the Dutch to reacquire the New Netherlands, but that was short-lived. However, this did make the people think twice about the validity of the grant. When Edmund Andros became the governor of New York, he attempted to annex the Jerseys into New York and began to charge ships bound for East New Jersey custom taxes, but Philip Carteret refused to pay those taxes and was beaten, arrested, and brought to trial. Philip Carteret was acquitted, but the court ruled that he had no authority in New Jersey. He was removed from his position as governor and died in 1682. Andros, too, was removed from his position in New York, but once the Duke of York ascended to the throne as King James II in 1685, he placed Andros as the royal governor over the Dominion of New England. He began to make aggressive moves by trying to control New Jersey from his seat in Boston. However, after the Glorious Revolution, King James II abdicated the throne, and Andros was arrested in the colonies in Massachusetts, putting an end to his ambitions in New Jersey. Royal appointees would govern New Jersey since they surrendered their governing rights to the crown. Among the royally appointed governors were Edward Hyde, who was famous for many scandals and endless corruption, and while he governed, he was known by his detractors for dressing in women's clothing to emulate his cousin, Queen Anne. The last royally appointed governor was William Franklin, the son of the distinguished founding father, Benjamin Franklin. He accepted his position in 1762 and was a brilliant man like his father, but he ultimately chose to ally himself with the crown during the Revolutionary War. He was chased from his governorship and away from his home in New Jersey to England, where he would die, and he never made amends with his father, who was a revolutionary, or his son, who followed in his grandfather's footsteps. While much was spoken on the subject of East New Jersey and the constant turmoil that was there was not much that I spoke about on the western half. The western half was actually heavily influenced by William Penn and the Quakers. The western half of New Jersey was originally given to John Berkeley, and in 1674 he sold his grant to two men, John Fenwick and Edward Byllinge. William Penn helped mediate a dispute between the two men, and eventually King Charles II, who was eager to get rid of his debt that he owed to William Penn's father, he gave him Pennsylvania and West New Jersey. With West New Jersey now firmly under Quaker control in 1677, the West New Jersey concessions were drafted, likely by Edward Byllinge. These concessions were the rules to live by, or the law that was going to govern West New Jersey. Within it were 44 different chapters or sections detailing the laws of the land. Laws such as Chapter 16, that no man, nor number of men upon the earth, hath power or authority to rule over men's consciousness in religious matters. Therefore it is concerted, agreed, and ordained that no person or persons whatsoever within said province at any time or times hereafter shall be anyways, upon any pretense whatsoever, called in question, or in the least punished or hurt, either in person, estate, or privilege, for the sake of his opinion, judgment, faith, or worship towards God, in matters of religion, but that all and every such person and persons may from time to time and at all times freely and fully have and enjoyed his and their judgments and the exercise of their consciousness in the matters of religious worship throughout all said province, or simply put, they were granted religious freedom. Chapter 17, that no proprietor, freeholder, or inhabitant of the said province of West New Jersey shall be deprived or condemned of life, limb, liberty, estate, property, or in any ways hurt in his or their privileges, freedoms, or franchises, upon any account whatsoever, without due trial, and judgment passed by 12 good and lawful men of his neighborhood, first had, and that in all cases to be tried, and in all trials the person or persons arraigned may accept against any of the said neighborhood, without reason, rendered not exceeding 35, in the case of any valid reason alleged, against every person nominated for that service, or just simply put, due process. Chapter 18. I won't read all that, but it boils down to not allowing the government to arbitrarily arrest somebody. Chapter 19, a free and fair trial and a trial by a jury of your peers. Doesn't all this sound familiar to you? These were some of the most liberal, and I mean liberal in the original sense of the word, as in the promotion of individual rights and civil liberties, not those crazy people that are running around trying to ruin the country and have perverted that word today. In any case, these were some of the most liberal laws of the day. Under this, natives were treated equally, secret ballots were made, and civil liberties reigned much more so than anywhere else. Many of the provisions within West New Jersey concessions were adopted into the Bill of Rights. For those of you who are going to liberal arts schools, that means that it's the first 10 amendments, the same Bill of Rights that grants us freedom of religion, the right to due process, the right to trial by jury, and so on. There were many liberties in the concessions that we enjoy today that were framed over 200 years ago. These little tidbits of history and information like this really go to show you how unique we are as a country and how our rights came to be enshrined in the founding documents and the law of the land, something that no other country can say for itself to the degree of freedom that we enjoy today. I hope that as you look at these videos and I hope you're reading the information as well, based on the links that I provided in each one of the videos. But my hope is that you look at the uniqueness of the founding of our country and you look at each one of the rights that we have enshrined within our Constitution, granted to us by the Declaration of Independence, that each one of these documents that were founded, that they were deeply rooted within Christian principles, that each one of these are deeply rooted within the Bible, that everything that you see here was not perfect, but it was building up to what we have today, all the freedoms and the liberties that we enjoy. Of course, I'm going to get into this in depth when we look at the Declaration of Independence as well as the Constitution. But if anything, I truly hope that even something as simple as the founding of New Jersey and the West New Jersey concessions, where we start to see glimpses of the upcoming document of the Constitution that is the law of our land today and that has granted us so many freedoms that we enjoy and honestly even take for granted today. I truly hope that this is something that you can take with you and you can defend our country from all these crazy people who are trying to get rid of our Constitution or who are trying to fundamentally change it or even purge us from our Christian roots as a nation. So I really hope that you enjoy these next few videos as we are building up to the Revolutionary War. And of course, I'm not going to leave out any of the injustices toward the Indians or anything like that. But my main goal here is just to show you of how unique we are and how special we are as a country. And I truly hope that you do come to appreciate that. So did you learn anything new about New Jersey? Please let me know down in the comments below. And I will see you guys in the next video.